I am Dr. Ruchika Verma, a postdoctoral fellow in Department of Psychology, University of Allahabad, is going to present a module on women and communicable diseases. This module has been written by Ms. Lalita Venkatesan, who is an independent consultant in Tamil Nadu. Women and communicable diseases is a very important topic in the realm of women's studies. What is a communicable disease? Communicable disease is an infectious disease transmissible as from person to person by direct contact with an affected individual or the individual's discharges or by indirect means as by a vector. Social, economic, environmental and demographic changes during the 20th century have affected the health of women to a greater extent. Many of the changes have benefited women's health, but some have had deleterious effects. Infectious disease pose especially formidable threat to women, claiming more than 15 million lives around the globe each year. For many infectious diseases, it has been seen that women are at a higher risk and have a more severe course of illness than men for many reasons, including biological differences, social inequalities and restrictive cultural norms. These are often the same factors responsible for the disproportionate disease incidence and vulnerable populations throughout the world. It has been seen that women is a sufferer of communicable disease. Next is that what are the reasons for women's greater vulnerability? Women have an enhanced vulnerability to disease, especially if they are poor. Indeed, the health hazards of being female are widely underestimated. Economic and cultural factors can limit women's access to clinics and health workers. The World Health Organization reports that less is spent on health care for women and girls worldwide than for men and boys. As a result, women who become mother and caretakers of children and husbands often do so at the expense of their own health. The numbers tell the story. The 2003 World Health Report showed that globally the leading causes of death among women are HIV/AIDS, malaria, complications of pregnancy and childbirth and tuberculosis. Although non-communicable diseases such as cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, etc. are on the rise due to change in lifestyles, at the same time, communicable diseases like tuberculosis, malaria, Kala Azar, dengue fever, chikungunya and other vector-borne diseases and water-borne diseases like cholera, diarrheal diseases, leptospirosis, etc. continue to be a major public health problem in India. In fact, diarrhea and respiratory infections along with tuberculosis and malaria cause about 1/4 of all deaths in the country. This has been reported in the survey in the year 2001 to 2003. The communicable diseases like tuberculosis, leprosy, then malaria, Kala Azar, dengue, chikungunya, waterborne like cholera, diarrhea, viral hepatitis A and E, typhoid fever and many other diseases are endemic in many parts of the world and are continue to be a major problem. In addition, there is a threat of new emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases like Ebola virus, influenza, hantavirus, etc. Next is what is the impact of infectious diseases? Infectious diseases, children and women are especially vulnerable to infectious diseases. Pneumonia, diarrhea and malaria are leading causes of death among children under 5 years of age. What is the impact of emerging, re-emerging and novel infections? Nearly 37 new pathogens with epidemic potential were identified globally during the last 3 decades. There is an increase in the epidemic diseases in the last 3 decades and there is a huge morbidity and mortality emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases outbreaks in national economies. Next is that what is the most common diseases which are infectious and found more in women. The first among them is malaria. Malaria is an infectious disease that disproportionately affects women. It causes serious illness in pregnant women and in children less than 5 years of age. Pregnant women suffer decreased immunity to malaria. The rate of malarial infection is higher in pregnant women because of their decreased immunity. Studies and researches have shown that pregnant women who contract malaria have an increased risk for several maternal anemia. The consequent impaired fetal growth contributes to low birth weights in newborn, and this well-known effects include suboptimal nutrition to the fetus, congenital malaria, intrauterine growth retardation, low birth weight, premature interruption of pregnancy, and infant mortality and maternal death. Malaria during pregnancy causes as many as 10,000 maternal deaths each year. In spite of the danger and impact of malaria on pregnant women, it is established that less than 5% of pregnant women have access to any kind of active protective intervention. Adolescent girls are also vulnerable to malaria. This is especially so in the African setting, where adolescents are often parasitemic or anemic when they first become pregnant. Adolescents, they face difficulties accessing health services mainly because of the stigma associated with their pregnancy and sometimes the attitude of health workers. In fact, girls below 19 are perceived to be least likely to use antenatal care, and which is a very dangerous practice. The next is malaria is endemic in India with an estimated 70 to 100 million cases each year. A recent article on malaria and pregnancy contributed by 3 prestigious organizations, which are ICMR, NVBDC and WHO, monitoring the malarial situation in India, and has revealed the appalling situation of pregnant women contracting malarial infection. It has been found that malaria is affecting pregnant women to a larger extent, and the consequences are devastating on pregnant women. Next is that an important aspect which has reduced the morbidity of malaria to an extent is the use of insecticide treated bed nets, and these nets form a protective barrier around people sleeping under them. Bed nets treated with insecticide have proven to be more effective than untreated nets. Now, the second major disease, which is infectious disease which affect women, is tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is caused by bacteria, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, that most often affects lung. TB is curable and preventable, but it spreads from person to person through the air. When people with lung TB cough, sneeze or spit especially, they propel the TB germs into the air. Overall, 1/3 of the world's population is reportedly infected with the TB, and estimated 1.3 million deaths occur among HIV negative cases of TB. This includes 0.38 million deaths among women. Now, what is the situation of TB in women? TB is the largest single cause of adult illness and death in India out of every other communicable disease. Children are also affected but are not seen as the main agents in spreading TB. Adults are affected, and since they interact more with others in the society, due to their contact with numerous people in public areas such as work or marketplace, they spread infection more. Although more TB cases are reported of men than of women, but TB remain a leading cause of death among women, with more than 5 lakh women dying of the disease worldwide. TB primarily has the greatest impact on the poor, and 240 million people live below the poverty line in India. Because of the lack of awareness and also due to fear of going for the treatment, TB is becoming a very important problem in medical problem in India. Its incidence is also much higher in urban areas as compared with the rural. Since TB spread fast in crowds, so that is why, due to the lifestyle of the poor people, it spreads very fast in the poor section of the society. Women of reproductive age are more likely to develop active TB if they encounter TB bacteria, yet they are less likely to seek help for TB symptoms than men. This has an impact not just on their own health but on the welfare of their family, particularly their children. Since women interact more with the child, according to WHO report in 2013, an estimated 3.3 million women suffered from TB, of which the African and Southeast Asia regions accounted for nearly 70% of cases. WHO already reported that TB is among the top killers of women of reproductive age. A staggering 5,30,000 women died from TB in 2013, and of all HIV related TB deaths, globally around a half were among women, and almost 90% of the HIV associated TB deaths were among women in Africa. Now, another very important kind of tuberculosis which is common in women is genital TB. Female genital poses a great challenge in terms of diagnosis and treatment in a woman in her reproductive age, when she has the most important role in the family. It causes significant morbidity, short and long term sequelae, especially infertility for the affected women in reproductive age in India. Genital TB is responsible for 1% of all gynecological admissions in India and 17.4% in infertility clinics seeking assisted reproduction. It is estimated that 8 to 15% with pulmonary TB also have coexisted genital TB, which is very serious condition. What are the risk factors for women with TB? The first one is that language and literacy. Women are less likely to be literate than men or to learn the language of the host community if they live away from their place of birth. So, they are less able to seek help or to understand printed medical information. Second is the family responsibilities. Women wait up to twice as long to seek treatment as men experiencing the same symptom. This may be because they have to stay at home looking after children or are reluctant to use scarce family resources. Then there is an issue of confidentiality which women may not need to discuss with outsiders about the problem which she is suffering with. It is a general trend which has been seen in women is hiding the medical illness. Next is what are the social and economic consequences. Long lasting illness with a 6-month duration of treatment, there are lot of consequences. For example, in a study showed that those sick with TB lost roughly 3 months of wages. They also spent approximately 1/4 of national income per capita on care and treatment. The stigma associated with TB in Indian society can cause women to be shunned by their families. Each year, more than 1 lakh women in India are rejected from their homes due to many women may not seek a diagnosis. Due to this, many women may not seek a diagnosis or treatment because they have a fear in their minds that if they are diagnosed with TB, they will be left by their husbands, and then there is a whole question from where will they go. Additionally, the girls also are at risk. TB affects education and growth of children. Around 3 lakh children leave school every year due to TB, and it is also important to consider the effect on families. If a mother dies, her children are at higher risk of dying as well. In India, revised National Tuberculosis Control Program has made huge inroads in the diagnosis and treatment of TB. Lot of efforts are initiated by government for the treatment of TB also. Next is HIV infection. This is another communicable disease which is important to discuss in the present context. HIV is a retrovirus that infects cells of the immune system, destroying or impairing their function. As the infection progresses, the immune system becomes weaker and the person becomes more susceptible to infections. The most advanced stage of HIV infection is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. It can take 10 to 15 years for an HIV infected person to develop AIDS, and it develops slowly, and it even slow down the process even and in the future. HIV is transmitted through unprotected sexual intercourse, anal or vaginal, transfusion of contaminated blood, sharing of contaminated needles, and between a mother and her infant during pregnancy, childbirth and breastfeeding. 5 countries, mainly India, Thailand, Myanmar, Indonesia and Nepal, account for majority of the regional burden. HIV incidence is the highest among sex workers and their clients. In India, Myanmar, Thailand, Nepal and Sri Lanka, HIV epidemics have declined or stabilized. The HIV epidemics in India is tied to the social and cultural values also, and economic relationships between men and women and within communities. Social inequalities help it spread in the country. The virus in turn reinforces these inequalities. There is a vicious circle, which first there is a difference in the socio-economic status of the men and women in the society, and gradually that leads to initiation of the infection. Women are the least powerful because Indian society is deeply patriarchal in nature. There is an absence of choice at the individual and systematic level. Women hardly has any choice on deciding for the factors like use of a condom or even to have sex. For women, the low economic psychosocial status, abuse and violence as well as legal and social protection increases the vulnerability to HIV/AIDS. HIV/AIDS in women is very common. 95% of Indians with HIV do not know they have the virus, which may also be masked by tuberculosis and other opportunistic infections. In addition, fear of hostile reactions from the community and at the workplace in the absence of protective policies and a general lack of knowledge drive the virus further underground. This results in infection to become more serious after some time. The next important point is awareness. Awareness has become a very important issue in the lower rural and less educated women. Only 18% of illiterate women have heard of AIDS, compared with 92% of women who had at least completed high school. In addition to poverty, hunger, lack of education and environmental and socio-cultural constraint, HIV, AIDS and malaria along with TB continue to disproportionately affect and further weaken the condition of women in many of the world's poorest regions. Moreover, the larger gender differences occurs among younger age groups. HIV infections in women has lot of implications for the health and well-being of children. HIV infection can be transmitted and perinatally affect the number of children and also on the women herself. Although preventing HIV transmission from an infected mother or to her infant has become feasible because of effective antiretroviral treatment regimes and has met with great success in many parts of the world, services that prevent mother to child transmission are severely limited in low income countries. Similarly, although combination of retroviral therapy offers the potential to manage the disease at chronic level, however, in India these efforts are not very much successful. Next is why there is a limited access to formal education and skill development, which is a very important factor for the transmission of HIV virus. Formal education, since most of the adolescents and young girls are not, illiteracy rate is high and the women is not exposed to the formal education and other kind of skill development, that is why they are more vulnerable to such kind of infections. Next is intimate partner violence. Intimate partner violence is an area which has been recently researched in the scope of women's studies. The most common and deadliest form of gender based violence is intimate partner violence and is both more frequent and severe in lower socioeconomic groups and is closely associated with HIV risk. IPV is now recognized as a key factor undermining women's ability to control their reproductive and sexual health. Physical, sexual and psychological manifestations of IPV decreases women's ability to refuse sex with their intimate partner, to question their partner's fidelity and to resist the use of barrier methods. So, such violence is very closely associated with sexually transmitted diseases. Now, what kind of gender consideration should be there in HIV virus, in HIV infections? But there should be some biological factors, and women are at greater risk than men of acquiring HIV through heterosexual contact due to larger surface area of the mucous membrane exposed during intercourse. So, the introduction of an infection fluid and the fragile nature of the vagina mucosal membrane is the most important reason for the easy infection in women. Socio-cultural factors. Vulnerability to HIV may be higher in settings where there is more poverty and migration. It has been seen that there are many socio-cultural factors such as poverty, migration, masculinity, peer pressure, gender norms, acceptance of multiple partners for some young men, and lack of voice for women in terms of when, where and with whom they have sex. In many parts of the world, it has been seen that women has no right to say anything in their marital relationship. Such kind of socio-cultural factors make women highly vulnerable to HIV AIDS. Next is adolescent girls are also particularly vulnerable to HIV. Sometimes these adolescent girls either engage in premarital sex or marry early. Young girls who are sometimes forced to marry older men lack the power to negotiate safer sex. In many settings, it has been seen that adolescent girls lack access to information and services for prevention because of social norms and because of the hesitation. So, it is very important that appropriate information should be given in those areas where young women are also sexually active. Next, it has been seen in many Asian and African countries that married women account for a large proportion of people newly infected with HIV, even though their only risk factor is having unprotected sex with their husbands. And social norms may encourage the beliefs that men are entitled to have unprotected sex with their wives, and violence against women is both a cause and consequence of the HIV epidemic. These factors contribute a lot in increasing the incidence of sexually transmitted diseases. Now, how health disparities can be reduced in women? Women are caretakers and brokers of health for their families. These roles can increase their risk for infectious disease and increase obstacles to adequate and timely treatment. Because of the socio-cultural context and the familial structures in India, it has been seen that women neglect their health and gradually become a platform for the infectious diseases. They don't go for the medical help when they especially need it. Reducing health disparities for women requires a multidisciplinary global efforts to combat the root cause of these disparities. These disparities exist not only at social, economic, but also at educational levels, and this fuel the spread of diseases and perpetuate poverty throughout the world. So, it is very important that there in community there should be commitment to reduce such kind of gender disparities, and which is on tremendous increase. With this, it can be said that the infectious diseases in women, the prime reasons are not only biological, but also the socio-cultural and the psychosocial factors which operate in the lives of women are determining factors for the communicable diseases in women. Thank you so much.